From the #1 best-selling author of Life Rescripted, you're now tuning in to the Year of Purpose podcast. I'm Zephan Moses Blacksburg. Matt Thomas, along with his business partner Ryan, formed Sunstone Recordings to aid in collaborating with other composers and producers of music in order to focus their craft towards achieving high-end licensing placements in television, film, and video games. They've composed and produced so much content that they want to form an artist collective that gives other composers an outlet to grow with them. They create a path for the collaborator to have a self-sustaining career in music, and today they're hanging out with us. What's going on, guys?
Hey, how's it going?
Not too bad. Thanks for joining me we were joking about this before we recorded, from like 10, 15 minutes away. It's kind of funny to have a Skype call and have you guys
very local.
Literally living down the street.
Absolutely. That's great.
Always good to have local Baltimore talent here. You know, I love so much about this city, and so it's awesome to feature entrepreneurs and people that are making it happen. So thanks for being here today, and really just wanted to give some background on what you guys do. So maybe expand a little bit just for the people tuning in who don't know much about the music scene or the music industry, and just to explain a little bit about what you guys do.
So essentially what we do is Sunstone Recordings. We're a platform for up-and-coming artists who haven't broken into the music industry yet. They may be playing in bands, writing in their bedrooms, just exploring that passion. And as you probably know, it's anything creative. Any creative passion in the arts is a struggle to monetize, to sustain, to actually thrive and make a career out of. And so what we do is we offer artists the exposure through high-end placements in TV and film for licensing.
That's awesome. So basically, you're giving the little guys the opportunity to meet with the big guys in a long, drawn-out sort of form, but like you're connecting them with the big players.
Absolutely, yeah. It gives them a voice on a much larger stage than they would typically have just playing locally.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I feel like if a lot of other industries had the opportunity to do that for people, it would be very valuable. And so I guess to get into both of your guys' backgrounds, Matt and Ryan, like, where does music come in for you? Like, just going back in your history, it sounds like at one point in time, you guys were probably at that point where you just loved music so much and wanted to do something great with it. Like, how did you guys get started? And, bring me up to, we came up with this idea, we're going to start this business.
Yeah, so essentially, I grew up playing music, all of that. It was always a passion for me. I played through middle school in the school band and all of that, and I joined a band with some friends in high school and started playing guitar and singing and all of that, and it was a lot of fun. It was a whole lot of fun. So really where this all came from is passion and having fun with it. It's always been a really exciting process for me, writing music. So did that for a while, and I met Matt through basically through my mom, and she had worked at Towson at the time, Towson University, and Matt was at American University as a sound engineer, and he needed a band for a final project. And she said, all right, well, my son's in a band, so let me hook you guys up. And that was when I was 16.
Yep.
So, yeah, wow. That was a little while ago.
Reaching back.
Yeah. 15 years.
Man.
Wow. Yeah. So that's how Matt and I met. He recorded us. He then went on to record our next, full-length album, recorded our demos, years later, and then eventually joined us playing bass for us. So yeah, we played shows. We did the whole national touring thing. We signed to a label, all of that. And eventually it sort of just fell apart. The band members, we grew apart. Our tastes changed. We had struggles with the label, creative differences, things like that. And so we decided to start up another band. So we did that for a little while. And we noticed that the scene was really dying. The local scene was dying big time. Some of the big popular popular spots to play were shutting down. The audience turnout was really low, and it seemed like the energy was kind of just gone. And we thought, okay, so this is really difficult, uh, and it's going to be hard to sustain doing this, and hustling T-shirts, CDs, stickers, pins, all of the band merchandise. It doesn't go very far, you know. So eventually, we got connected through some mutual friends to music supervisors and people who worked for BMG in LA for licensing and publishing music, and we got a couple of jobs, and it took off from there.
That's awesome. And, I think that I've seen that sort of shift with the music industry too. For a while I worked at the Apple store, and like 50% of the people that work there are all in bands.
Yeah.
It's a wasteland there.
Yeah. One of the guys that worked there, he was living in the same house as the guys who are in All Time Low. As you know, they're from Maryland as well. And, there's a lot of really cool, rockers and rock stars that work there. And it really seems like all of them got hit pretty hard by this. And so I'm sure people are tuning in right now, and some of them are interested in music or learning a new instrument, or, really want to pursue a career in music that they never did because, mom and dad said, oh, you need to become a doctor or a lawyer. And so, the music scene is definitely changing. How do we keep the dream alive in a sense? I mean, it's a lot harder to make money in music, unless you get picked up for some crazy new song like, who was it, Psy, who came out with like Gangnam Style, and it just blew up on YouTube for no good reason.
Yep.
So it's like, how do we not get discouraged from following our dreams as musicians if, it really requires getting lucky on YouTube now?
Right. Yeah, exactly. Well, that's been a lot of why we're doing Sunstone is, it's through the sync placement, because that's an area of growth in the industry where other parts are actually shrinking in terms of revenue. So that actually is always growing, and, because people need content for, the YouTube shows, to cable and network television, to, just so much content being created these days, where you always need music and really high quality premium sound for all of that. So it's actually great that we can provide that source of revenue for these artists as they keep growing and getting bigger over time. It's a lot trickier when you're playing local shows and there's only like 8 people that turned out to hear a new song. That's not really that great type of exposure for that particular new song. But if you get placed on a network television show and there's 15 million people that tuned in, that's rather awesome. That's tough to compete with in terms of visibility.
Yeah. I know that someone that I used to work with, I think he just made a bunch of like dubstep mashups and mix-ups and things, but he started to put them online, and at one point he actually got picked up by one of the major studios, and they gave him I think $3,000 to put his song in that movie Elysium that was with Matt Damon, I think.
Oh, okay.
And but that was A, super lucky, but B, $3,000 isn't going to go very far.
Right. Yeah,
exactly. That's a great payoff for a track, and
right, exactly,
things like that.
Yeah, but just over time, it's like you have to continue to keep doing that, keep feeding that material, keep funding, your own releases of singles or EPs or full lengths, and then just trying to get more of that material placed in various shows or movies or trailers or what have you, and then just every little bit, it's pennies from heaven, it all just like adds up over time, until it's like actually sustainable as a career.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I mean that's got to be tough for people, because obviously we're playing a long game here. So
yes, it's all a long game.
Yeah,
got to eat dirt for a while, but it does work.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's really kind of the theme of entrepreneurship just in general, and in working for yourself and working the way you want to, right? Like, doesn't it mean, some people might have to eat ramen noodles, right, for a while, and then eventually you move your way up to the filet mignon. I think that that's certainly
Absolutely.
how it was for me. I mean, I was not completely dirt poor, but I can certainly say I was planning my trips to the supermarket much more when I first got started than I am right now.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely, yeah, and
Oh yeah.
it's a war of attrition, really, all industries, but just entrepreneurship in general, and that's great because it forces you to have just go with the best ideas, the most simple ideas that you have, and just straight to the point, and just stick with those. So it's actually a benefit, really, I think.
Yeah. So how have you guys, I don't know if, you've probably talked with a lot of people that have come through the studio who are, maybe 6 months in, a year in, 2 years in, however long, maybe 10 years in. And you kind of have to be like the person to encourage them, right? Because some people get to a point where they're like, man, like maybe I should just give up because this isn't working. I mean, how do you guys, keep encouraging other people to stay with it, especially because it's a long game? And then how do you guys yourselves, encourage yourselves to stay with it? Because, at the end of the day, you guys are also business owners.
Right, yeah. I think the so for ourselves, I think the beautiful part is that our success is in our hands. It's in our own hands, you know? And this is the long game. And we know that if we stick to it and we're committed to it, that 5, 10 years down the line, we're going to be in great shape. And we've seen it work over the past 5 years. We've been in this for 5 years now, and we've seen it grow every year, and it's promising. It's very hopeful, and it can be it can be really challenging to keep an artist. What's the word I'm looking for? Not just motivated, but yeah, to encourage them
Engaged.
to yeah engage them and stick with it and trust the process. Because I can speak from personal experience. 2 or 3 years ago, I was talking to Matt like, man, I don't know. Like, is this gonna work? Like, can we make this work? Uh, and I had second thoughts about it. And as Matt said, just like, stick it in. Come on, let's do this. Let's do it. And it's worked out great. So we haven't encountered a few artists who are really excited about it. They're into it. They want to do this, and then maybe they're expecting like a huge immediate payoff, something like that. And it's you have to be realistic about it. You have to understand that this is it's a career path. And like all things, it's going to take time to grow to a point where it will be completely self-sustaining. And the beauty of it too is that it will reach a certain point where uh, we'll essentially be making more passive income than active income. And that's the goal, is to be able to, lay off we'll put in the hard work now so that we don't have to work as hard in 5 and 10 years. So if we keep our eyes on that goal, essentially, um, we'll get it. We'll stick to it. And so I think if artists can get there as well, if they can keep that focus, then I think there are a lot of artists who have a really good shot at making incredibly sustainable careers with their music.
Yeah, and I think that one thing that you guys kind of mentioned before was that you very intelligently pivoted in the industry, right? Like at one point in time, you realized that there was a much more profitable route to take to get to where you want to be. So I want to jump to that in a second, but first I wanted to dive just a little bit deeper into that conversation of, I don't know if we should keep doing this because I know that I've certainly gotten there. I've had plenty of days I've been self-employed for 3.5 years now.
Hmm.
And I've definitely had days where I'm sitting there, I'm just like, you know what? I could close my laptop right now and just walk out and be done with this for good. And, there are certainly days where it's like, I would never give this up. Like, this is awesome. This is my life. And so, how do you bring yourself out of that conversation of, I don't know if we should keep doing this? Like, obviously you've stuck with it, but how do you get yourself out of that kind of stuck place? Because I know a lot of people are stuck in this place where they're like, I don't know if I should keep doing this. And then they kind of stay there. So nothing really happens either way. Like they don't really make a decision to move forward or to give up on something.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how does that talk how do you progress out of the negative side of that talk?
I'm usually just focusing on not only the positives, but your strengths, and understand, which your areas of improvement, and maybe why you're feeling that way. But typically, like I always look at it, the reason I've been able to maintain my unflinching attitude in this being able to work is just the long goal, just understanding, what my points are, visualizing, 3, 5, and 7 years from now, and how to work towards those. It was always like something like I remember growing up, like I had done martial arts for pretty much most of my life, and one thing was like if you're going to try to break a board or attain something that seemed like it was insurmountable, it was always like if like the board's in front of you, you punch beyond the board, like the board's just in the way, but your punch should go all the way straight through, like to some point beyond that. It's not really what's in front of you that's the problem. It's being able to go well past that naturally. And it's like it's just a sort of a mindset, just not to be caught up in the here and now being the issue, but how do you formulate the here and now to have a stronger future?
Yeah, I think that you've got a great analogy there with the board. I think oftentimes we kind of set this bar and it's just like, okay, I'll be happy when I get to this place. Mm-hmm. And then you get there and then it's like, all right, now what?
Now what?
Right. I'm not happy. That was cool for like a second and now it's gone.
The now what is the toughest part. That's what sucks the wind out of the sails.
Yeah, totally. So I guess, at one point you guys got stuck, you pivoted, you realized there was this great opportunity in the industry to change, your direction. How do you guys recognize that now what moment of, instead of just getting back into this cycle of like setting a small goal, like where did you guys start to dream bigger and how did you know that was the best route for you guys to take?
Well, yeah, it was like a sort of a change in people's tastes, like where people would want to, music listeners would want to stream music and consume, maybe say passively, like they would discover a song on a television show by like Shazamming it, versus like people used to like line up outside the record store, like 100 deep on a Tuesday, to actively purchase the records. Just kind of seeing people's tastes change. It was one of those things where we were just thinking like, well, what would say if like this all just completely went away, like people just did not want to buy records or people just want to, download them free or whatever, what other avenues of growth would there be? Like, what do we have access to today because of technology and the way that the industry is set up? And people like us now can actually get the licensing much easier. So we saw that as an area of growth. At that moment, just seeing like, okay, so like these songs are placed in these like, movie trailers and everyone's going bonkers over that like movie trailer. And then they go download the actual, album or the song or whatever that was like featured, and just seeing that was like an actual area of growth, whereas other parts seem to be shutting down. So it's like, instead of just plugging away constantly, by trying to like hustle our CDs to like 8 people at shows, it's like, no, let's try to like focus on an area of growth right here and now. So, and that's one, at least, catalyst in terms of us pivoting at that particular moment.
Mm-hmm. Well, it sounds like you guys really asked yourselves a great question there, and this is something that really anyone tuning in should ask, is you kind of were like, well, what will we do if this disappears tomorrow?
Absolutely.
Like, do you guys think that would, I mean, I would probably go as far to say is that's the most important question you can ask yourself with any business. If you get to a point where you've been in it already for a little bit and you're kind of wondering what's next as well, if this literally disappeared from the face of the earth tomorrow, like what would I do?
Absolutely. Yeah, exactly. And that way you're all of your eggs as a company, are in one basket. You can diversify properly, of course. But it also like then opens up other paths that you may not have thought, if you were just, plugging away just like your regular path that you had, your direction that you were going before. It can always open up other avenues that you just, didn't expect if you ask yourself, this is my strong point, but, say this is gone tomorrow, what am I going to do?
Yeah, totally. And I think that I think we did an episode recently with a guy named Steven Spencer, and he talked about this pretty cool exercise that he was doing to use the opposite side of your brain to figure out what like the other side of your brain would say. So like I'm right-handed, which as you guys know is controlled by the left brain. And if I were to go and write with a pencil in my left hand, it would start trying to force my right brain to make decisions. And I almost wonder, if there's like some secret unconscious thing where it's like we already know what we should do next. We just can't quite get it into words or on the paper. But I mean, have you guys ever felt like, in your path, you kind of knew where to go next? It's like your body was telling you already know what to do, but you couldn't quite figure it out.
Yeah, absolutely. I think at least like, during that time when we were talking about like discussing licensing and stuff, I had even brought that up when, we were still on the label touring. It was at that show in, I think it was in Long Island, I remember.
Okay.
Just saying like, the whole playing, sold out tours or whatever doesn't last forever. And, what if we started trying to do other styles of music as people's, styles change, but, other styles of music and sort of like a framework for, trying to get, just other interest. I didn't necessarily know exactly specifically it could be for licensing at that particular time. But yeah, I just remember thinking that's like one good example.
Yeah, and for me, I remember, so writing songs in a band, the band has a very specific sound, and it's like, okay, we can't really go beyond those boundaries too far because we have a sound and a fan base that likes that sound. And I remember writing songs that were, way out of the box, and I had no outlet for them. I would just record ideas on GarageBand, and they'd be wacky and strange, and they wouldn't fit anything that I was doing in the band. And so I kind of have this, my voice memos are like a total wreck because I have just tons and tons of different ideas just stockpiled that wouldn't fit. I couldn't make them fit in the band scenario. So then I have all this great material to pull from, and I didn't think of it at the time as like, okay, what else can I do with this? I would just think, well, I can start another band.
Right.
But then, okay, I got to find, 3 other people.
Yeah.
And then essentially I would just build another creative box. So I think what we're doing now with licensing, it's an incredible amount of variety.
Absolutely.
We get to write pretty much every genre of music. So it's fresh all the time.
And I remember at that time too, it was like we were in a rock band or pop rock band, but then the first thing that we were like collaborating on as like an extra thing ended up being this like country sounding song, and then we were like, no, we totally can't do anything with that. And just bury it. And it's like that's what a terrible way to think creative, like in terms of creativity. Like here's this creative idea and it worked. Okay, now just bury it. It's fine. Don't do anything with it.
Right.
So it's like now it's like we never do that. Like literally all of these ideas, all these collaborations with other artists, all various styles of music, and we get to wear different hats every single day. It's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've always said that one of the curses of the entrepreneur or even just the creative is that, you do come up with ideas all the time. Like I have a notebook now that I have to keep with me because I literally come up with a new business idea every other hour, and God forbid I have coffee that day. It's going to be like every 10 minutes.
Double time, yeah.
And possibly illegible.
Yeah.
So I was going to ask, it sounds like you guys found a way to, do so many different things that you totally love, right? Like, if the country music thing pops up and you're like, this is awesome, but, why would you bury that? It sounds like you guys found a way where you can wear many different hats, but you don't have to be torn or pulled in so many different directions. You kind of still have this one focus at the end of the day that the business comes down to, and it still allows you that creative freedom that you've been looking for so long. Which is totally awesome. I think that that's where anyone would want to go if they have that sort of creative mindset. As we kind of round off the episode here, I wanted to ask, you guys being on a tour with a band, there's this like work-life balance that's probably pulled a 180 for you now that you have a business and you're not traveling around the country as much. How do you guys balance out both work and, having a life and even taking care of yourself outside of work? Because I know being on tour is pretty rough on the body. You're not always eating the best food. You're not always, working out. There's a lot of goofing off.
None of that was
no sleep. Yeah, lots of travel. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a totally different world, completely different world. And so now I think, so what I've been doing to find that balance of self-care and also dedication to the business is I've been getting up early, super early in the morning, going to the gym, getting my head clear, getting my body kick-started. That seems to help me set the day in motion. As for like a social life, it's, this is work. This is a lot of work and it's a lot of time. And I try my best to fit that in. And I'll also say that this is a big priority. I know it takes a lot of time it's going to continue to take a lot of time to get it to where we want it to be and to really have our vision come to fruition. Yeah, I'd say, that's a complete 180 from the road life where it was, driving through the night, sleeping in shifts in a van, eating McDonald's or whatever we came across. Yeah, no exercise. The only exercise was jumping around on stage, I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally different.
So just closing things off, music is an important part of my life. I grew up playing violin. Actually, I don't know if I've told anyone on the podcast this, but
nice.
I grew up playing violin for many years and was, played in an orchestra. And at one point, my dad probably thought it would be great to send me to rock band camp, buy me a drum set, put it in my mom's house, whom he had been divorced from for a while, so he probably saw it as some like sadistic way to get back at her. But I switched over to drums, learned a lot of percussion for many years after that, and still have it every now and then. Jump on a kit and play with some people and jam out. What sort of advice do you have for people who either went one path, maybe the doctor lawyer route, and kind of got away from their musical roots? Like, what advice do you have for them? And then, like, what advice do you have for someone now who maybe someone is kind of the starving artist, still, kind of grinding away at it and wanting to go somewhere?
I would just say just to refocus on what your true passion is. Instead of worrying about several different variables and what could have been or what you would rather have happen, and just really focus on like just simple strengths that you have, and then just be able to honor those and try to grow those. So if it's a lawyer that hates being locked up in courtrooms or whatever, or if it's patent law or whatever, and then they want to switch back to playing drums, and, tour the world or whatever, but just to start cutting away, like dedicate, time each day without distractions and without worrying where it could go. Just, really just focus on improving that strength and that passion. And then that way that'll actually open up its own path for you that you just have to then barrel down
Yeah. Yeah, and I'd say for starving artists, for anybody out there who's still trying to get their feet on the ground, trying to get it moving, stick with it. Um, Stick with it and recognize, take inventory, see what is working and what isn't working, and be honest with yourself. Um, really take a good look, and if you can make it work, make it work. And also get in touch with us. We'd love to help you.
Absolutely.
We think there's too much talent out there that's simply wasted because uh, a lot of bands, and I speak from personal experiences, we didn't know how to get our foot in the door. We didn't know how to take those first steps, and we would love to help creative artists out there get their foot in the door and take their first steps to
Yeah.
a self-sustaining
Plain and
career
simple.
in their passion.
Yeah, we are the first step.
So, Matt and Ryan, what is the best way for people to get in touch with you if they're tuning in right now? I'm sure there might actually be some podcasters listening right now who are like, hey, these guys could probably write a new jingle or do some new music for my show, because I know a lot of people do, a little bit bigger production on their shows and are looking for audio for that. People are constantly posting in the groups that I see looking for, what music am I allowed to put in the show? How can I get some original music? I bet at some point down the road that would be a great connection for you guys. What's the best way for, either the artist, the podcaster, whomever, to get in touch with you?
Absolutely. Yeah, we'd love all that. Sunstonerecordings.com. And we have all of our social media links there at the bottom. And of course, we have a contact page as well on there where you can reach out to us. And an email as well at info@sunstonerecordings.com.
Yes, and we're also active on our Facebook page, which is facebook.com/Sunstone Recordings, and active on our Instagram feed as well, which is @Sunstone Recordings. So yeah, shoot us a message there, shoot us an email, and we'll start a conversation and see where we go.
Good stuff. Well, Matt and Ryan, thanks so much for taking some time with me today. It's awesome to have you guys. I always, every episode for me kind of goes in a different direction, and I really do like that because we hear from entrepreneurs and people all over the world and sometimes down the street. And so it's great to have some guys that are here right in my backyard doing some awesome stuff. And just thanks for being here.
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
That was our
thank you,
pleasure.
Hey everyone, it's Zeph. Did you like this episode? Be sure to subscribe so that you can tune in next week and tell a friend about the show. If you want access to free training and exclusive interviews on success, happiness, lifestyle design, and adventure, visit me at yearofpurpose.com. Until next time, go out and let life surprise you so that you can live a life rescripted.